Hello, welcome to the Sanders Review. My name is Caleb Sanders, and today I am very excited for this, which is the first kind of video culminating some aspects of this last year. We've been decorating for Christmas. We've been doing some spiced mulled wine, which if you've ever had spiced mulled wine, it's like a cinnamon, apple cider, red wine drink, which I'll have a link in the description to a recipe if anybody wants to try it. Over 21, just to clarify that. But this year's been an incredible year, a lot of change, family growth, and I've been able to experience a lot of growth with this channel. Just got over 200 subs, which I know that's not really a big deal for a lot of people. For me, just doing this part-time, I really appreciate anybody who has subbed or watches my videos regularly and comments and subscribes, so thank you so much for that. And today I'm really excited. I want to talk through and rank 5 of the novellas / shorter books that I've read this year that really stood out to me. If you know, a novella is usually a shorter book that's anywhere from 60 to 120 pages. Brandon Sanderson has a novella that's like 380, so I felt comfortable including some of the really short books that weren't technically novellas, but they were still fast reads you can get through easily in a setting if you sit down and just read for several hours. It should be noted that there may be a couple tiny spoilers, but for the most part, this is spoiler free. Alright, so for the year 2024, coming in at number 5 for me for novellas / short stories is the book Zero Boxer by Fonda Lee. Fonda Lee is one of my favorite authors. Her Greenbone saga, Greenbone, I always forget that. But it's an absolutely incredible series, and she's an incredible writer. And so Zero Boxer is one of her earlier writing books. It's a zero gravity in space MMA fighting book following the career of a man named Carl Luca, who is seeking to become champion in this zero G league, which is all about zero G MMA fighting. Which that should immediately hook you as an interesting read right there. Brings in a lot of solar system politics with social issues going on, the fear of people coming in and fighting with genetic enhancements. And so this book is a very fast-paced, very well-written book that I would give. I mean, it's not a perfect book. The romance and some of the conversations and things just aren't there. It kind of jumps to a lot of the romance especially just jumps the gun a lot, and so it's not very believable. So if you've read her other works, you kind of know that Fonda Lee has a good writing of characters, and this one is just kind of a little more two-dimensional, I would say. And so that kind of knocks us down for me into like a C+ range. But Zero Boxer, definitely worth a check out if you want something that is really interesting to read and pretty short. Future Caleb jumping in here real quick with another book that I forgot to mention from the novella reading that I did this year. A book by Adrian Tchaikovsky. It's called And Put Away Childish Things, which is, I gave a C+ to. I would put it at tied with 5th place. This is a book that is a dark fairy tale take on the Chronicles of Narnia, where you follow a man who has experienced a lot of trials in his life, a lot of flawed history that he has inherited, and seemingly mental health things that turn out to be that he is the inheritor of a kingdom that is very similar to Narnia, including through a wardrobe. And let's just say, without spoilers, you get into a world that is very reminiscent of Stephen King's fairy tale, with dark fairy tale aspects, including twisted world building, genetic modification, is it aliens, magic, whatnot, you really don't know, creepy crowns, crazy spiders. It is a trip to read. It's, I think on the ebook that I got, it was only like 200 something pages, and I got through it literally in a couple hours. I would recommend you go check that out, and that would be tied with for the 5 spot, I would say, with the previous book. Coming in at number 4 for me is Glenn Cook's Sweet Silver Blues, which is a fantasy noir book following, it's the first book in his Garrett P.I. series, following a man named Garrett. He's a human in a melting pot city of fantasy races and gnomes and vampires and dwarves and just everything you could imagine. And he sets out as an investigator to investigate a friend of his who died, who's a gnome, who there's some illicit gains, there's murder and theft and classic crime, and there's a very almost a nostalgic feel to this if you've ever read any noir books or watch noir films, it has a very nostalgic feel, and Glenn Cook is just a master of writing fantasy. And it has its challenges. It's definitely not as dynamic maybe as other books that you are reading. I mean, it's a product of the 90s, so it has a few tropes that you may not like or you may not care for, but it's a very interesting read, I will definitely say. And if you're not looking for a big, massive tome to read, you just want a shorter, interesting story, I would highly recommend Sweet Silver Blues by Glenn Cook. I would personally give Sweet Silver Blues probably a rating of about a B overall, so very strong book with very engaging, but just some tropes and things that just maybe pull it down. Coming in at number 3 for me for the year 2024 is Discworld book number 9 by Terry Pratchett called Just Eric. This is a book that is a satirical take on Faust, a very famous work, just known as Eric. You follow a 13-year-old boy named Eric who has summoned a demon to try to take over the world and want to be able to do all these amazing things and rule the world and meet the most beautiful woman and all of these things and live forever. And he summons Rincewood, which if you know anything about Discworld and the Riskwood arc, Rincewood... very amazing character. You've never read Discworld. It's a world shaped like a disc that is sitting on the back of 4 elephants that are standing on the back of an astral turtle that is flying through space. It's absurdism, which is just honestly, it's an amazing just break from reality. And Terry Pratchett does an amazing job of taking classic stories and rewriting them and twisting them in unique ways. He did one for Hamlet. It's hilarious. And so you follow Eric and Rincewood as they start going on a series of adventures that take them through, and this is mostly spoiler-free, take them through a parody of the Aztec Empire, a parody of the Trojan War, which if you've ever read Terry Pratchett, you know how ridiculous he can be. If you've never read absurdism, it's definitely an acquired taste. But if you're a fan of like Jim Carrey and kind of more slapstick comedy, these books might be something you would be interested in. And eventually even seeing the dawn of creation and just how that works in this Discworld. And then, interestingly, at the end, you are taken to, let's say, the Discworld's version of hell, where the ruler of hell has installed bureaucracy because nothing could be more torturous than boredom and bureaucracy. And so, absolutely incredible book, Eric by Terry Pratchett. I would definitely give it a solid B+. And I would definitely recommend go checking it out. Quick read. My second favorite novella / short book, and this is definitely a short book for him, Brandon Sanderson's Dawn Shard, which if you ever read any Brandon Sanderson books, you know he loves his thickum books. And so Dawn Shard is one of his novellas that takes a character and you go through in the Stormlight Archive. If you've never read Brandon Sanderson, he has invented and created the Cosmere, which is an interrelated universe, very similar to like the Marvel universe, where you have all these different series and novels that are read, and you go through and see these different eras and eons in this universe. And he loves having rules and laws to follow in the magic system, which I agree with him to an extent that when you have magic system with rules, following characters as they try to break the rules or to overcome the rules, there's more of a stake because there are clear limitations put on it. And that is where this novella, Dawn Shard, does take place. Brandon Sanderson has written several novellas based in the Cosmere, and some really good ones that I really love that I might rank at some point my all-time favorite novellas. But in this one, you follow Risen. She's a trader who has been crippled in one of the previous books, and there's a series of events and things that take place with these ghost ships appearing, and they go on an adventure, and eventually, no spoilers, but this book does explain some very fundamental aspects of the Stormlight Archive and of the Cosmere, and has some very big stakes. And let me just say, anytime that you have the Lopen involved in a book, that's going to always bring it up, in my opinion. And so I would give Dawn Shard probably a very solid A rating, A rating. Drags on a little bit at times that I think he could have picked it up a little bit, but it is Brandon Sanderson we're talking about, and he likes to write very long books. So very impressed by this book. Give it an A. And finally, for all of 2024, my favorite novella that I have read is another book by Fonda Lee called Untethered Sky. If you have never read this, I would highly recommend reading it. I believe on Goodreads, some of the ratings have it a little bit lower, which I completely object to personally. I think this is an amazing book that I give, just right for out the gate, know that I give this book a A/A+ rating. And I think is absolutely incredible. I reread it like 3 times in the space of a month and a half. That's how much I enjoyed it. And Untethered Sky is set in a fantasy world where it's Babylonian, Assyrian inspired, so ancient Middle Eastern, Near Eastern history, following a woman named Esther whose family has been murdered by a mythical creature, and she then sets out to join and become a rook master, which in this kingdom, the rook, which is the mythical giant bird, not magical, the mythical giant bird that is capable of hunting down these mythical monsters. And the rook master and the rook, this kind of based it on the eagle hunting and hawk hunting of the medieval ages and of ancient history, these rooks riding on chariots and chasing down and finding lions, and in this case manticores being the ultimate evil that are tracked down, and following as ultimately this story is a story of exploring and discovering. It's just so many things. I would say one of the big things is the pursuit of obsession, and in the end, overcoming your demons and overcoming your own limitations. And it has a very bittersweet ending. Can't give any spoilers on this, but if you were interested at all in anything I've said, it's a very unique book that Fonda Lee, I believe she wrote it and published it and wasn't even expecting to. She was one of the first books she wrote and she published it later. And I think it's absolutely incredible. It has its flaws, but for me, it is just such an engaging and amazing world and story that I give this an A+. I would highly recommend reading Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. Mulled wine. Well, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this quick just ranking of these 5 novellas / short stories that I read in 2024. I'll be having some other videos coming out in the coming weeks of, let's just say, bigger videos of talking about more about what I read this year and some things that I went through and learned through this year journey of having this channel for a year. So thank you so much for watching this. If you're interested in anything that I talk about here, check out up here. I have some videos about some of my favorite book covers that I own, and up here are going to be some recent videos that YouTube recommends. So take care, have an amazing holiday season. God bless. Go read some good stories.